I put a post out on social media asking you guys if you had any questions for me, anything to do with filmmaking, music videos, or just if you were interested in anything to do with my life. So this video is basically just gonna be me drinking tea and asking your questions from social media. So the first question we have is from Dan, and Dan asks, what are your qualifications/background? So my qualifications are that I went to school in the UK, so finished high school, went to college, and I did a BTech diploma in media. So that was radio, film production and film theory. And then I graduated that, and then I went to film school/university, studied at a University for the Creative Arts, shout out to all my people in Surrey, and then did 3 years there, graduated in 2014, and then moved back up to Manchester and tried to work my way into the film industry from there. This tea's really hot. My girlfriend made this cup and there's no handle on it, so I'm absolutely gonna burn my fingers throughout this Q&A. Things I do for the views. Say No Music asks, first music video you ever saw? I don't actually remember what the first music video I ever saw, because it was probably when I was like a baby and Michael Jackson's Thriller was playing on TV. But the music video that I can remember having like a really strong impact on my life was Daft Punk's Interstellar, 5555. 4 5s, I think. Because I used to go around to my best friend Lewis's house, and sometimes I would stay there for like 2 weeks at a time, just chilling with him, watching movies, playing video games together. And sometimes at night we would stay up till 3 a.m. chilling, and then we would go down in his living room to grab some cereal as a snack, and then we just put the music channel on, and we just stay there for hours and hours just watching music videos while eating cereal and talking about them and being like, well, that was a weird music video, I wonder how they made that. And yeah, I remember Daft Punk's Interstellar showed up when we were sat there watching music videos, and it was the first music video that made me think, holy crap, like this music video fits so well with the song, and it's just the perfect marriage of imagery and music working in harmony together that I feel like it had a really positive and lasting subconscious impact on me. Even though the video is animated, it's not even real, it's not even live action, but for some reason I just have that memory ingrained into my brain. And even only like a year ago, I remembered that I had this memory and realized and started to think, why do I love music videos so much? Like, what even got me interested in it? Because I don't have any family who are in the film industry or like artists and creatives. So, but I remembered that memory. So I feel like that period of my life had a really strong influence on my want to focus on making music videos. What inspired you to go into filmmaking? Danny Rosetta asks, who is my cousin. Thank you, Danny. I guess from a very young age, well, actually, like, the only thing that I remember, I never had the experience of being the kid who, from a very young age, always knew he wanted to be a filmmaker. I never really experienced that, but what I do remember vividly is my dad would be shooting home videos with his like Sony Handycam, and I would always be like, can I have a go on the camera? Could I have a go on the camera? And I don't know why I wanted to have a go on the camera. I think I just liked the idea of holding it and like filming with it, and my dad would always be like, no, because it was obviously an expensive camera and I'm a little kid, he doesn't want me to use it. But that's kind of the earliest memory that I have of like the desire to want to film something. And then I remember when I was in high school, YouTube was just really kicking off then. There was another website called eBombs World, and I don't know if you remember that, but that was like the OG YouTube before YouTube, and there's loads of like funny shorts and funny sketches on there. And then YouTube just started happening, and Smosh was around, and all the early YouTubers were kind of blowing up. And I kind of had the idea then in my head that I might want to dabble in YouTube, so I made a few random silly short film things with my crappy phone, like with the friends who lived near where I lived, but I never took it seriously. But I always felt like I was interested in like filmmaking and cameras in some way. But then I remember my dad let me watch The Shawshank Redemption, which is an incredible movie, and I was probably way too young to actually watch it because that movie's pretty intense in places. But I remember watching it and finishing watching it and thinking like, wow, that is one of the best, that is an absolutely outstanding, incredible movie, and it stuck with me for that reason. And then as I got older and I started to look at get more interested in film, I would look at top 20 best films of all time, and The Shawshank Redemption would always rank high. So it almost planted confirmation in my head that stylistically and aesthetically, I had an eye for what is considered to be good filmmaking or good cinema. Therefore, it implanted a bit of confidence in me in knowing that, okay, maybe this is a path that I should pursue and take a bit more seriously. Next question is from Camille Bazan, who asks, should your work be separate from your personal life, or should you try to merge the two? It's the whole idea of doing what you love. What are your thoughts on this? I would say yes to some degree. It's an interesting question, simply because perhaps one of the reasons that I was really hesitant about even starting a YouTube channel was specifically about this topic of how much of my personal life should I actually share, and how much do you separate the art from who you are as a person. So it is an interesting question. I think that there should be some balance there. I don't know how healthy it is to share every single part of your life. I mean, there's YouTubers that do daily vlogs, and the famous ex-vloggers like Casey Neistat, who quit because they saw how much of a detriment that was to their mental health. So there's definitely something to oversharing your personal life with the world and it just becoming this blend. Obviously with filmmaking, it's a little bit easier to get away with that, professional movie filmmaking, because people know you as the director. David Fincher is the director of Fight Club, and David Fincher could walk down the street and 90% of the people wouldn't know it's David Fincher unless he walked into a film festival, then everyone's like, it's David Fincher. Versus most YouTubers, I imagine this is how they feel, where they can walk down the street most of the time, they don't get recognized a lot. And when they do get recognized, it's not enough to the point where it bothers them and stops them from being able to live their everyday life. I assume people like PewDiePie, that's a bit different, because he's so big and a lot of people know who he is. But that kind of fame and celebrity versus Brad Pitt, who is he can't just walk down the street and live a normal life. So in terms of separating the two, I think you should think carefully about what you share to the world and then what you keep for yourself. Even I'm still trying to explore this, because there's a lot of, I made a whole video about how dating coaches helped me get better with girls, and I found my girlfriend as a result of exploring this world. And I was very vulnerable about making that video because I knew I felt like I would get a lot of backlash from it, and people would really judge me and question what I did was wrong for some reason. So I've only really touched the surface of considering what should I and should not share, and maybe in a year or two I can give you a more well-rounded viewpoint of that in regards to YouTube and being known online to a lot more people. Jamie asks, who's the most famous person you've made a video for? What were they actually like? I've worked on a bunch of shoots as a lighting, as a gaffer and a spark, so a lighting assistant, especially because I'm from Manchester, just north of Manchester. I worked a lot on football commercials, so I've been on sets with people like Sergio Aguero, people like Pep Guardiola, who's the manager of Manchester City Football Club. So I've been around those famous people. In terms of videos that I've been the cinematographer on or director, possibly people like Becky Hill. I did a music video for her a couple of years ago. She has recently done a track with David Guetta. Guetta? I don't know how you pronounce his surname. David Guetta, let's say. Wait, how do you say David Guetta's name? Guetta? Pronunciation. David Guetta, okay. Yeah, she did a track with David Guetta recently, and I hear her songs all the time. She has a really, really good voice for electronic dance music. And yeah, I'll be out in a taxi somewhere or in a club and I'll hear her singing her song and I'll be like, oh yeah, I've worked with Becky, she's cool. Michael asks, what is the craziest thing you've seen on set? The craziest thing I've seen on set must be when my friend almost died on a film set. I want to say film set because this is when I was at uni. So it wasn't really an official film set. Basically, my friend wanted to make a short film and we filmed on this rock that overlooked this kind of park, this really big park, which is also MOD land, which is like the Ministry of Defense, so the military in the UK, where they do training schemes and things like that. And we built a fire on top of this like cliff, but this cliff was not like anyone could go there. I used to go for walks here, and people would be walking their dogs and with their kids, so it wasn't like an off limits thing or anything. But we set up a fire there and did this whole scene, and then I remember packing away all my gear for the shoot, packed it all away, and then all of a sudden I just heard a like the ground rumble. I heard a super loud noise, and then I turned around and like half of the cliff had just disappeared, and people were just like, my friend Neil, they were just like, Neil, where's Neil? Where's Neil? He was the director, and he had fallen down this cliff, and another one of my friends fell down as well. And he stood up and he was like, I remember he stood up and he was just like, Adam, where's Adam? Where's Adam? And I was like, from the cliff, like, I'm here, like dangling over the edge of this cliff, even though it probably wasn't safe because it had just collapsed. But then my other friend like really hurt himself because he fell, scraped all the side, and like he was bleeding. It was really bad. And then ambulance came. So yeah, that was the most crazy. That was probably one of the craziest things I've ever seen on a set in terms of like someone actually could have died. Another thing that I've seen actors walk out on sets where they just get so pissed off and they just walk off, and they're like they're like really frustrated with the way that the set's running because like maybe the people aren't experienced on it, and you're just stood there as a lighting guy like, okay, and the actor just breaks down because he doesn't feel like he's being treated right, or he's getting frustrated with communication with the director. But yeah, that's always pretty crazy to experience, and you just got to try and be cool and chill and not let that affect your what your role is on the set, and try and help anyone on the set who's not going for a good time or for whatever, because you don't know what's going on in everyone's head. Like you're on a film shoot, but you don't realize that sometimes you forget that these people are just living their lives and anything could be going on with their life. So for me, I always feel like it's my responsibility that if I'm in a good place in my head, or if I'm in a better place than how that person is perceived to be, it's not my job to like snap back at him if he snaps back at me because of frustration. It's my job to just kind of hold the space and try and help them out as much as possible, because I ultimately don't know what's going on inside their head, and it's not my job to like be reactive because of the way they might be treating me. If it's particularly aggressive or snappy, or the temper is a little bit short, it's not my job to try and like argue with them or be reactive. So yeah, that's my perspective on it. My mother, Mara, hello mum, she asks, what music video have you enjoyed being part of the most? In terms of my own music videos, maybe my latest one, which I made for Say In Away's track Iodine, possibly because I always kind of wanted to make a music video like this ever since I was at film school, so coming on like 7 years ago. I was always really inspired by directors like Anton Tami and Brother, who are two of my favorite music video directors of all time. And I always knew that I wanted to make a video in the style of what they do, and I just never had the opportunity to have an artist approach me or have a song that I felt like could be crafted with the style that they make their music videos in. So this track was exactly that for me, and when I pitched it to Say In Away, she like really loved the idea, and I showed her the references from Brother and Anton, and she loved it, and I feel like the end result was really close to what I envisioned in my head of what we could do. So yeah, maybe that, but it also could just be that was the last video I did, so I have like the what's it called? The syndrome of being like, the most recent memory is the strongest, maybe. But yeah, I think that's definitely a standout for me. Also, maybe I did a video for a band called Magic, who were a British band, and I kind of really liked that video simply because it was one of the first videos where I felt like we captured like really cinematic things in it, and I felt like it really fit the song. I felt like it had a lot of good baseline elements of what I would consider to be an enjoyable music video, and I learned a lot from making that. And also we had really cool scenes where we went to Shoreditch at 4 a.m. and shot on the streets at night, just getting all these cool shots. And that always feels really good when everyone is sleeping and you're just like up in early hours of the morning to shoot this video. And people who watch the video don't realize how much work it took to plan it and make it happen. And I really like that. There's something about making something creative or a video that people are gonna watch and they don't actually really know how difficult it was to make the things happen. And even if you did shot a whole behind the scenes featurette, they would still never really understand how tiring it was to do those really long days or to wake up that early to do the video. So yeah, like I like that video a lot. I like that video a lot. I feel like it was a good stepping stone for me to get better and better at making music videos. Bluey asks how to come up with an original idea in a very saturated market. I don't think there's such thing as an original idea. I think originality is overrated to the point where I'm not concerned about being original anymore. I used to be very concerned with coming up with an idea that people would be like, whoa, I've never seen that before, and this is gonna change the industry, or he used a certain camera technique that no one's ever used before. But I'm not attached to that at all anymore. My opinion is that originality is just a combination of different elements and references that you come together, and because people haven't noticed what references you've pulled from, people think it's original, even though it's a combination of different ideas combined. So I'm actually never worried about being original anymore. The only thing that I care about now is finding good references that speak to me and inspire me and I connect with, and then trying to find a way to combine them together so then it becomes a new thing. And I think that is more possible than people think. So regardless of what kind of creative you are, I just think it is about finding as many references as you can from different sources, bringing them all together and trying to find a way to present them, to combine them together and present them to the world in a way that people think that you're original. But it's just because they don't know what the references are. James asks how to choose which artists to work with. Where do you put your energy? That's a good question. It depends on a lot of different factors, whether I choose to work with an artist. I made a video recently on my channel where I had a section which talked about 3 filmmaking mistakes that I'd made in my career. And one of them was learn how to say no to specifically projects and opportunities that you get. I think the way that I would say no now with an artist is it all depends on a lot of different factors, and I'm gonna make a video about this soon, like when I say yes or no to a project. One of the things would be like, for instance, if it's a new artist who's never made a video before, that will affect my decision-making process as to whether I say yes or no to them, because the chances of making a music video for an artist and them blowing up and getting big and then me reaping the rewards of that, because I can always say that I made a music video for this big artist and that looks good on my portfolio, it's pretty low. Like, I've made a lot of music videos for up-and-coming artists or artists whose video that I think was really good and I learned a lot from it, but they never really blew up or got big. Therefore, the return on my investment wasn't actually that great. And of course, back then it was fine to work on projects like that because I was still learning, my skills were still improving. Therefore, if I was able to work on a project for an unknown artist, it didn't matter because I was still kind of really honing my craft and I got to use new gear sometimes. So I was learning something new. I worked with new crew. So it was all a learning lesson for me. But now I'm at a point where I feel like I've proven that I'm good at what I do and I can make and I feel like I can make good music videos for artists. Therefore, if a new artist approached me to make a music video for them, I would have to really vibe with certain things about them. It could even be like they're gonna pay me really, really well. It could be I particularly like the song. It could be that I particularly vibe with the idea. It could be that they want to shoot in a cool location. Like like if a new artist approached me and was like, "Hey Adam, here's my song." I listened to it. I'm like, "That's a really good song." They're like, "I want to shoot in Japan. I can't afford to pay you for your budget, but you know, I'll fly you out to Japan. We'll shoot there for 5 days. You can bring your girlfriend. Here's this idea, and I'm really into the idea." Maybe I would, and if they're also like, you know, like you don't have to edit it, so you know, I know that I just prep and then I go there to Japan and shoot it, and I don't have to spend a lot of time editing and grading afterwards, and then the project's done for me. Maybe I would say yes to that project, just because why not? But yeah, if an artist comes to me who's not very big and they don't really have any budget at all, or they want me to shoot for free and I don't really like the song, and I've also, and most importantly, which is a really big factor of whether I say yes or no, like what have I got going on at that time in my life? Like, am I swamped with other projects? And to really dedicate the time and energy into making this particular music video, would that take up so much of my life in that particular period that I really want to, if I say yes to it, it's going to be a real commitment, right? So, and also like, how am I doing financially at the time? Sometimes I've said yes to a music video just because I need the money. Luckily, I'm in a position now where that isn't as strong of a reason. So it all depends, and there's no right or wrong answer to it. It just depends on what's going on in your specific life situation. And again, I am going to make a YouTube video about this whole topic because it's quite confusing for a lot of people. Like, when do I say yes or no to a project? And a lot of people fall into traps where they just say yes to too many projects, and then they half-ass some of them, and then they put a bad taste in the mouth of that artist because she doesn't think you did a particularly good job, but it's just because you didn't have enough time to put into it and you were juggling other projects at the same time. So yeah, it's a real labyrinth to navigate this whole topic of when to say yes or no to a film project. So stay tuned to this channel. I'll be making that video pretty soon, so hopefully that can help some of you guys who need some perspective on when you should say yes or no. So John asks, you've made videos with more than 3 million viewers. How do you know when you've made something that people will really like? Unfortunately, you don't know. Like, there are some times where you get an indicator that a video is gonna do particularly well. For instance, I did a music video at the start of 2020 for an artist called PS1. And we shot the whole music video in this apartment actually because of this pesky virus that was happening in the world. And we made the video and then we released it, and very quickly I was getting DMs from friends saying, "I'm in my Uber right now and that song that you made the video for is playing on Radio 1 right now." And that just happened quite a lot. And then eventually the video just like kept going up and up and up in views and popularity, and it's got over 3 million YouTube views right now. So yeah, that was just a case of the song was really, really popular, therefore people were naturally drawn towards wanting to see what the music video was like. And also the marketing was really good for the song. Apparently on Snapchat, people just kept getting adverts for it for some reason. Like, even my little brother just kept saying like, "What the hell, I just keep getting adverts for the song that you made the music video for." So yeah, it really depends. Sometimes you never really know, and it's kind of heartbreaking sometimes because you put so much effort into a music video, and then just because the artist isn't big, it'll only get like a couple thousand views here or there. But again, these things happen, and even if a music video that I make doesn't get a lot of views, if I enjoyed the experience of it, if I got paid well, that's always nice. And if it's something that I feel like can go on my portfolio and it's gonna really help to showcase my skills, then it's worth it, even if it doesn't get 3 million views. So Sasha K asks, are there personality types that are easiest, more difficult to work with? In terms of artists, yes. There are some artists, or rather record labels, who come to you with a very clear idea of what they want for a video. But then there are some artists who don't really know what they want in terms of the video. They just have a song and they know what they want a video for it, and that's the beginning of the relationship that you're gonna have together to develop the video. But at least for me, like, musicians who are brave and wanna do risky things, I really like. And also who have trust in me that this is gonna work out. Like, so for instance, Saying Away, who I've made like 4 music videos for, we have a really good relationship because she's really brave at just trying stuff. and she understands music videos from the perspective of what kind of brand she wants to build. And she understands that she wants each music video to kind of show a different side of her, for us to try something different together. And I really, really like that. Like, she doesn't play it safe. And I'm really into working relationships with artists who I can build really good friendships with, and therefore like a really good creative relationship with. So yeah, I feel like I've worked with artists who I shot a video for, but I didn't really bond closely with them. But that's no fault of their own necessarily. It's just that, you know, you meet some people in life who you're friendly with, and then you meet some people who you just develop a really close bond with for whatever reason, because you just click in a certain way. So yeah, I guess it's just about working on more projects and trying to reach out to more musicians, at least for me, and to try and find the musicians who I really connect with and can build really solid creative relationships with. So Kafir asks, do you ever have a moment, realization, panic during a shoot that the footage you are capturing is too far off the mark to fulfill the vision, mood, emotion you are planning on creating for the finished video? If so, what do you do in those situations? I've never had a video where it was so different than the vision necessarily. Like, I've definitely had videos where we planned what it was gonna be, and then on set, something took way longer than I thought it would. Therefore, we had to start dropping scenes completely. And that was the only like representation of you being worried that this is not gonna make any sense, because if I cut that whole scene out, then the video is gonna be more boring, because I'm just gonna have to like repeat. I'm gonna have this dance scene in way more than I even wanted to. But I've never really had an occasion where I'm panicking that it's like completely different to the point where I can't even recognize the project anymore when I get on set. I guess that just comes down to planning the video really, really well, trying to consider what are the things that could possibly go wrong, and then trying to find a way to make sure as much as possible that that can't happen in any way that you can, whether that be like allocating more time to a certain scene just to be safe, that you can actually shoot it in time and move on to the next scene. But it also comes with a lot of experience. Like, now I'm at a point now where I can plan a day's shoot, and depending on the kind of shot it is, if it's on a gimbal, if I have to switch camera to a tripod, or if I have a really good sense of how long it will actually take. And I can schedule in the shot list around that schedule more accurately than I would have done 6 years ago. So Adam, good name, he asks, I've heard new filmmakers don't earn much money. What do you do to supplement your income? I guess new creatives don't make much money. The field of being a creative is not a very financially stable one in the early stages, and I'm sure many of us have experienced this. If like, as we leave university to try and get a job or try and get paid for being artistic, it's very difficult to at first. In terms of what I did personally, for me it was about, that was a nice sound. Cheers. For me it was about making sacrifices initially, because I was living just north of Manchester at home for about 3 years, and if I ever got a film shoot, I would get an hour's train journey into Manchester, work on the shoot, come back really late, and then get an hour train back. And then sometimes I would even finish way later and there was no train, so I always budgeted in, okay, I'm gonna have to pay £30 in order to get home tonight from the shoot, and that is just gonna be £30 taken away from my paycheck. So for me, that was the sacrifice. It was that I really wanted to live in central Manchester at the time. Like, it would have been really, really great for me to just, for my social life and everything. But I ultimately knew that I felt like I would be more miserable if I had to get a Starbucks job and then someone called me and said, hey Adam, are you free for this film shoot tomorrow? Blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, no, sorry, I can't do it. I've got to work in Starbucks. Like, and there's nothing wrong with anyone doing that. Like, if you work in a job that isn't related to what you want to do just to make money, then, you know, more power to you. And in a way, like, I'm kind of intrigued that if I actually took that route to have a a normal job along the side of pursuing filmmaking. It would have been better for me in some ways in that if I lived in the city, I would have been able to make connections more quickly. I would have been able to go to social events more, like, and I would often meet up the people who I ended up meeting on film sets more frequently because I was in the city. But because I live so far away, I would only ever really meet them on film shoots. So you could argue that because I was saving money, it hindered my ability to build deeper connections with some of these people, and then arguably that could have eventually led me away from working at a coffee shop or whatever to pay my rent. So yeah, like regardless of which thing you choose, there's no right or wrong. If you want to stay at home and you can do that and your parents are fine with it, then, you know, take advantage of it if you can bear with living with your parents for a year or two. But if you want to move out and get into the city and, you know, maybe sacrifice a few opportunities because you have to work to pay your rent, then there's also nothing wrong with that. Eventually it will pay off in the end, and you'll end up getting more opportunities. But I think one of the things that I would maybe recommend is try and get a job in the industry that you want to be a part of. So for instance, like you could try and get in, if you want to be a filmmaker, for instance, you could try and ask if you can work in a lighting company or a camera hire company. I know that's a really big path that a few of my friends in London did, where they worked in camera hire companies for a couple of years, which had the advantage of they learned loads of stuff about gear, about all these pieces of equipment, and then also they built really strong relationships with these companies to the point where they could be like, hey, do you mind if I rent this Arri Alexa for a weekend, which is like a 40 grand camera to buy? And they were like, yeah, sure, no one's using it, have it for free. So they were able to rent like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of equipment for no money. And I had that experience as well, where as a freelancer, I did some work for a lighting company in Manchester. And I built up such a strong relationship with them to the point where I could be like, hey, Chris, do you mind if I rent some of this equipment? We really don't have a lot of budget, like £100 or whatever. And he's like, I just have it for free. Or he'd give me like a stupid discount. So yeah, there's definitely some advantages to that. So maybe that would be my recommendation, is try and work for like a videography company or like a camera hire company or production company. And that will give you instant connections. That's the big thing. You get connections in the industry straight away. You often get to be around people who are making films, so you build relationships with them. And then when you want to take the leap into being freelance in the industry, if that's what you want to do, you're starting from a really solid place versus spending 3 years working in McDonald's and then you quit and then you're like, who wants to work with me? I don't know anyone. I don't have relationships with any of these companies. So yeah, that would be my advice. Try and get in with a company of some kind for the first few years of your career. So Andy says, do they teach you how to negotiate contracts or run a business in film school? They don't. Now, I didn't do a master's, for instance. Like, I never went to the National Film and Television School like some of my friends did, which is considered the best film school in the world. So I can only speak from what like a university film school course gives you, but they didn't teach me anything about the business of filmmaking. And it's a really, really big gap that I feel, where that is something that I've only just started learning about. I mean, like in the last year or two, that's something like, how do you negotiate? How do you make a contract for a film project? How do you negotiate rates? When do you say yes or no to a film project? Like I've said before, there's so many things about the business of filmmaking that are equally as important as the creative side of it. And the problem is, like, as a filmmaker, at least for me, like, I never considered myself to be business minded. I was always like, I was just the artist. That was my mindset. I'm the creative, I'm the artist. But if you're like the starving artist archetype is glamorized, but I think it's not a healthy mindset to try and be in. Like, I genuinely thought that, like, I live at home with my mum and I'm gonna work my way up and I'm gonna make that one project and it's gonna blow up and I'm gonna go from starving artist to like famous filmmaker. But I don't feel like that is the best route to go down necessarily, at least for me. Like, you know, I think it is fine to be smart with your money and to be strategic and to think more from a business mindset than from an artist mindset. So to be honest, like, if this whole YouTube thing works out for me and people are interested, like I genuinely am thinking that one day I would love to make a course about this, like an online thing where I teach you guys how, like, the business of filmmaking and how to negotiate and how do you, just like things that I wish I knew early in my career that I feel like so many people would benefit from, and try and advertise it in a way where it is interesting to artists. Because if you're an artist or you're a filmmaker and you just graduated, I don't think you really start to encounter the whole business side of filmmaking, because the fact that you even get called to make money from your art is fucking amazing. Like the fact that some guy would be like, hey Adam, I need you for 2 days on the shoot for £100. I'm like, what? I get paid to work on films? What the hell? Like the thing that I'm passionate about, and the fact that someone's gonna give me money to do something I would probably have done for free anyway. What? Crazy. So that's the big problem with artists, is that we would do it for free anyway. And the fact that we get paid is a bonus, but this is ultimately why people take advantage of us, and people know like they can get a videographer for cheap because they presume, because so many people are already going to do it for free or cheap because artists need opportunities more than anything. It starts to put like less of a value on the art form itself. So yeah, it would be good to teach more people to stand up for yourself, know when you can command a higher rate of pay. And ultimately something like that, and more people learning about this is going to help everyone anyway, because we're not going to be as undervalued as much. So yeah, stay tuned for that in the future. Maybe in, I don't know how long in the future, that'll be something that I'll be able to share with you guys more in future videos, and who knows, maybe a course someday later down the line. So Arthur asks, what do you say to someone who wants to start but is too afraid of being on camera or fear of judgment? And I made terrible videos on YouTube many years ago of me talking in front of camera, and some of them I've even like privatized because they're so cringe and I'm so embarrassed to keep them up. But for me, even then, for me, the biggest fear is just the posting of the thing. Like, for me, like I was always fine talking in front of a camera, but it was just the actually posting it and sharing it with people that was the big problem. And the big fear of like being judged and people laughing at me. But what I've come to realize is that when you share your journey or who you are as a person, or share some element of yourself, most people don't criticize you. If anything, they're actually, if you have a good group of friends in a good social circle, most people will actually be like inspired by it, in the sense that a part of them wishes they could do the same thing as you. And the fact that you're on camera and just being vulnerable and speaking your truth, they can really connect with it to the point where they're not going to criticize you. They're just going to be like, oh, that was a really cool video, man. And at least for me, like I've never really had a hater. Yeah, I'm sure they're going to come at some point later down the line. And even if they did crop up on my videos, I honestly don't feel like it's going to affect me that much, just because I've done so much work on myself to the point where, like, if anyone was like racist because I have brown skin, yeah, I have brown skin. Like, it wouldn't bother me if everyone's like, your eyebrows or your fucking half Italian nose, whatever. I don't know what they would say to criticize me, but like, I feel like I've done so much work, internal and external, on my ability to be comfortable with my less confident side of me, I guess, that I'm at peace with people criticizing me. I don't really think there's anything that could affect me to the point where I would be offended necessarily. If anything, I would be more offended if someone said, your videos used to be great, Adam, and now they're really rubbish, and you've sold out to the YouTube algorithm, and you don't feel authentic anymore. That would hurt me more than anything to do with my looks or the way I speak and my accent or whatever. So yeah, just like maybe step one is to just film yourself in front of a camera, but just don't put it online, or show your closest friend the video, but don't make it public, and get enough positive reinforcement from people that if someone says to you, hey, you speak really good on camera, or at least for me, like I had a lot of people saying like, hey, you're actually kind of funny on camera, and you're and like you seem really confident in the way you speak. If enough people say that, you almost have to believe it, because it's been reinforced by so many people that becomes your own belief system. So yeah, that's what I would advise. Shoot a video, privatize it, send a link to a friend of yours and get feedback. So Jareth, who is a good friend from uni, hey Jareth, advice on moving your career in another country. Yeah, I can say a few things on this. I'm currently in Budapest, Hungary. I've been here for about 3 years now. Like, I'm gonna be honest, even though I have lived here in Budapest, Hungary, I don't think I've really fully gone all out with making connections here for my career. For a few reasons. One, I moved here because I started working as a freelancer for a YouTube channel, and that was the main reason I moved here. So a lot of my time was spent integrating myself into their YouTube channel and proving that I'm valuable to the company, and what I do is really really cementing myself as a valuable individual in making this channel run. So I didn't really spend a lot of my time focusing on building up my music videos and building connections here until very recently actually. But I was kind of lucky in a way because a lot of my old contacts in England were still wanting to work with me, and I still had many projects where I flew back to the UK or I made a video here, and directors in the UK contacted me, but then I ended up shooting the video here in Hungary. So my advice in this is kind of not super solid, but I would say that you could try and get in with production companies here. You could, if you're already, for instance, in my case, wanting to make music videos, you could just shoot a music video for free just to build a connection with that musician, and then have a reason to get crew on, and then you always have a camera assistant. Like for instance, with Saying Away, the first music video I did for her was for free. But from that experience, like I was able to say, okay, we've got this music video that we want to make, but I definitely need a lighting guy. And then she and I could search out a lighting guy who we would pay a little bit of money for to get on the shoot. And then by having that one experience of working on that shoot for free, I already had one connection that was a guy who was already in the film industry in some capacity. And if I ever needed more crew, I could be like, hey, do you know any other camera guys? Do you know any other lighting guys? I've got a project coming up. So that is like an instant route into knowing more people in the industry. Give me a few more years and I will be able to give you a much more well-rounded answer about this, but like you do have to restart things a little bit because all your connections and contacts are not going to be here, and you're going to have to start finding crew again. You're going to have to figure out how the landscape of filmmaking works in the country. Like is there a lot of production companies? Who are these production companies? So there's a lot of work that needs to be done to restart in a way. But one of the actual advantages about working in a city or a country that you're not familiar with is that you're instantly unique. And what I mean by that is I'm not from here, therefore the architecture, the way the city looks, like I can perceive it in a way that no native person can, because my eyes have not seen this street or this building every day for the last 20 years of me living in the city. Therefore, you can actually, the way you shoot and the way you like plan an idea, you can look at a location and be like, that location looks so cinematic, like holy crap, it looks so cool. And a native would be like, what do you mean it looks cool? Like that's just a building here, there's like 20 of them. And I'm like, no, it looks so cool. And we had that on my last music video with Saying Away, where like we went to these like block buildings and I'm like, this place looks so cinematic. And I feel like luckily like she's an artist who can kind of see things my way a little bit, but I could tell like for her that's just like, these are just normal block buildings, there's nothing interesting about them, like they're everywhere, they're all over Hungary. So that's definitely an advantage, is that you're instantly unique, you stand out just because you're not from here. And especially if like with me being born in the UK, if I'm like, hey, I'm a filmmaker from England, and if I'm in Hungary, let's say, people are like, whoa, this guy's a filmmaker from England, and here's his reel and he wants to do projects with us. Like this guy, I'm gonna remember this guy versus just another Hungarian guy who's like, hey, I'm a Hungarian filmmaker. The fact that you're an English filmmaker from the UK, now you live here, is like instantly makes you stand out from the crowd. Ben Salam asks, what cameras do you really enjoy working with and why? I don't know. To be honest, I'm not a big camera nerd. Like I know, like I'm more of a lighting nerd than a camera nerd, to be honest with you. Like I do like cameras and I like gear, but I ultimately know that what's more important than the camera is always the idea and the concept, and also the lighting as well. Like there's so many more things that are more important than the camera gear that I find it really hard to be super duper excited about it. Like people, YouTubers like Gerald and Dunn, I love watching those videos. I get so much enjoyment and nerdy satisfaction out of watching him review gear, but I could never make those videos. Like, I don't have enough interest in the technical side of the cameras. I know a lot of the technical stuff of the cameras because you kind of have to know it in order to do your job well, but I don't have a passion for that kind of area of filmmaking. But in terms of cameras that I've used before, I'm shooting on the A7S III now. Great camera for music videos and for YouTube videos. Like, I shot my music video with Saying Away with this camera, and it looks great. But I've also shot with things like the Red Dragon 8K. I've shot with the Arri Alexa Mini. Yeah, there's many cameras that are great now. Like, the best thing about growing up in the time period that we're in now is that there's so many good cameras that are available to you that can make your stuff look amazing. So take your pick, I guess. So anyway, Music asks another question, and she says, if you could make a music video for any artist tomorrow, who would it be for? If I asked this question from like which musician would get me the most exposure, I guess like someone like Drake would be pretty cool to do a video with, just because it would mean that I would get a lot of like people knowing who I am. But if I had to make a music video for someone in terms of an artist I really like, it would probably be Porter Robinson, just because like he's a musician who is one of my favorite musicians of all time, if not my favorite musician currently now making music. And I feel like his music videos are so powerful and so connected to the song, and just working with him and being around someone who has such a positive impact on my life in terms of how the music has emotionally affected me in certain periods of my life, I would almost feel obliged to want to make a good music video for him, just because, as like a thank you for helping me through some really tough times in my life, and for making me feel like a lot of joy in certain areas of my life when I listen to his music. So yeah, if I had to say who I would love to make a music video for, it would be Porter Robinson. And you know, who knows, maybe one day I'll be able to make a music video for him in the future. I guess if I get big on YouTube, maybe you guys can spam him with my stuff, clip this Q&A section so he knows that I would love to make a music video for him one day, fingers crossed. Liam in the Clouds asks, is iPhone the future of filmmaking and photography? In a way, yes. I feel like we've already seen it, right? More people are taking videos and photos on their iPhones than ever before. Like, if you go on holiday, yeah, there are some people who still wear a camera around their neck, like I still do, but so many more people just carry this around, and then this is the video camera, it's the photography camera, they do everything with it. And there's even been feature films that have been shot on one of these things, right? So it's the future in the sense that more people are gonna use this than ever before, and it's only gonna keep going. However, I don't think that these are gonna replace cinema cameras, simply because you'll be able to, there'll be 8K phones soon. There probably already are, actually. The latitude will get better, the color science will get better, everything will get better, right? The only thing that can't really get way better to the point where it can match, let's say my A7S III right here, is because of this, the lens, right? Because this glass can't really replicate the depth of field that an A7S III can, because the lens on my camera right here is this big, and the lens here is like this big in terms of like the depth of it. So you can't really replicate that nice depth of field with the background being soft. And yeah, you can do that artificially, artificially you can do it now in a phone, but it'll never be the same, and it'll never feel the same. And it's never like, I don't think we're gonna be seeing 50% of the Netflix shows being shot on one of these things. Like, it doesn't make sense, but it's definitely gonna open a lot more doors for people to experiment and get into filmmaking in general. Like, I shot some of my early short films on a phone. That was nowhere near as good as this. I had to I remember I got a phone where I could film with it, but in order to do an edit, I had to film, pause, and then I had to film again, and that would be the cut. Whenever I stopped and started it, that's the cut, and I couldn't, if I messed it up, then the whole thing was messed up. So the fact that a kid who can have a phone as good as this and have editing software and add music and do all these crazy things and be like, wow, filmmaking is what I want to do, that's amazing. It's going to open the door to so many more people who want to get into filmmaking. But honestly, it's never going to replace cinema cameras. Like, cinema cameras are only getting better year by year. There's a reason why they cost so much. There's a reason why they've stuck around for so long. Obviously, we've shifted predominantly to digital now versus film cameras back in the day. But a lot of people still use film cameras, and yeah, I don't think this is going to replace them, unfortunately. It would be nice if they did, right? Because you could just get one of these things and then that's your cinema camera. I'm gonna get my Oscar, woo! Mr. Harry asks, who's your favorite YouTuber? Tough one. Who is my favorite YouTuber? Damn. You know what? I'm gonna say something that you might not expect. And it's actually probably PewDiePie. And the reason I say that is because I remember watching his early videos, and I remember seeing this like really stupid Swedish guy playing video games and doing what he's doing. And now if you look at him, like, he's still doing YouTube. I do find his content, not all of it, because I don't watch like the Minecraft stuff and the video game stuff necessarily, but he just seems very humble for someone who is so successful. And he seems like someone who like thinks a lot about his mental health and thinks a lot about treating people nice, and he just doesn't come across as an asshole. And for someone who's so as big as he is, like, you would presume that's actually pretty hard. So in a way, he's probably one of the YouTubers that I admire the most, in terms of someone who literally started from nothing, built himself up all the way to where he is now, and doesn't seem like an asshole because of it. So yeah, maybe PewDiePie is a YouTuber that I'm literally wearing his merch, so I clearly like him. And then in terms of other YouTubers that I admired like a lot of the early YouTubers like Freddie W, Corridor Digital I really like in terms of like filmmaking channels. I like Cody Ko, he's a good comedy YouTuber. I really find him funny. He makes me laugh a lot. There's so many that I probably can't think of right now off the top of my head, but those are a few that come to mind. So I'm gonna end the video here. Thank you so much to everyone who submitted questions to me. I'm sorry I didn't get to go through all of them, but hopefully if you found this video entertaining or informative, I can make a future Q&A video. If you're curious about some of the mistakes that I've made in my career as a filmmaker, then you can click on this other video on my channel right here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.